Returning viewers to the channel will know my feelings towards modern Hollywood and my critique of modern politics in modern media. So you may be shocked by what I'm about to say. This past weekend, I actually went to the cinema for the first time in literally years to watch Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme. And I loved it. Genuinely, unironically, I loved it. What? For those of you who haven't heard much about it yet, The Phoenician Scheme is Wes Anderson's latest dive into his signature diorama style, a film set in the fictional country of Phoenicia, where a flamboyant industrialist, Anatole Zaza Korda, played by Benicio del Toro, attempts to leave behind a troubled legacy by building a massive infrastructure project, a bridge to nowhere. Quite literally. Along the way, he reconnects with his estranged daughter, a nun in training played rather effectively by ra-pa-tela-ton, or however you say it. Korda wrestles with betrayal, assassination attempts.
Myself, I feel very safe.
Corporate sabotage, and somewhere in the middle of all that,
Get the hand grenades.
a spiritual awakening, sort of. Now, let's get something out of the way. I'm not going to waste your time talking about Anderson's style. If you've seen his films, the pastel colour palette, the symmetry, the deadpan dialogue where no one ever seems to have a normal emotional response.
Don't cry in my office.
Yeah, it's all there. You either hate it or, like me, you love it. Or at least like it. Well, I thought Del Toro was actually very strong. Controlled, weird, and exactly what you'd expect from an Anderson lead. Mia Therapeuton was also surprisingly good. She gave a restrained but emotionally sharp performance, which felt more mature than you'd expect from someone with only a handful of credits. Scarlett Johansson, though, I don't know who keeps asking her to do accents, but can we just stop doing that now? Because she's just not good at them. I would be saying exactly the same thing about Michael Cera, but I'll leave my comments vague for now. If you see the film, you'll know why. No spoilers. And no, this film does not star Bill Murray or Willem Dafoe.
I did one with Wes Anderson called The Phoenician something. That's the title. It's, I'm sorry, Wes.
They're there, but blink and you'll miss them. Great to see them, of course, and yes, I enjoyed what I saw from them, but don't expect more than a glorified cameo.
Sorry, Wes.
In terms of story, it's a bit all over the place, but if you're not expecting that from Anderson at this point, you clearly haven't seen any of his films before. Yes, it's hard to follow, but I didn't really mind it all that much, and you're right, yes, normally that is something I would rail against, but Anderson is as Anderson does. I suppose he's protected here by the indie film label. What did surprise me is just how much I enjoyed this film, despite what it's saying on the surface. Yes, it's yet another woke Hollywood jab at the super rich, an anti-capitalist fable where the oligarch is humbled and finds meaning beyond profit. Of course, we've seen this all before. It also has some not so subtle digs at Christianity. But as tiring as it is to say, that's just modern Hollywood at this point. Filmmakers and producers who rake in millions, or at least used to until recent times, throwing tired punches at religion and preaching about the evils of capitalism while living in literal palaces. It's probably the biggest reason why cinema is dying. They are completely out of touch with the average viewer, and in many ways they seem to be actively working against us, or at least, again, that's how it seems to many of us.
Not a great plan.
One of the most interesting, maybe even unintentionally revealing parts of the film was the way that Korda completely turns his back on his sons and focuses instead on redeeming himself through his daughter. It felt like a metaphor, intentional or not. In today's culture, as we're all aware, boys and men feel increasingly left behind, uncelebrated, unheard and unneeded. And this film, not so subtly, echoes that. A father who rebrands himself by abandoning his boys, both of his own blood and his adopted sons, in favour of his daughter's approval. I couldn't work out if this was actually the point of what Anderson wanted to say. Was it a dig at the West's hyper-focus on femininity? I don't know, but at this stage I'm not going to give Hollywood, indie film or not, any help or credit unless their intentions are really, really obvious. I've always found it strange that Anderson's work is called comedy. The Phoenician Scheme is supposed to be a black comedy. Now, there are moments where you might chuckle or even chortle, but Anderson's films are never really funny, are they? I mean, they're strange, meticulously crafted, thoughtful, definitely visually hypnotic to the pretentious-minded, such as myself, and I couldn't tell you why I like them or even love them, at least some of them. But I do, which is not something I'm seeing all that much from the critics who, outside of the Hollywood bubble, have been absolutely blasting the film as far as I can see.
At no point did any part of the plot touch me on an emotional level. What I thought I was watching was a very, very mechanical Wes Anderson film.
So, was it any good? Well, as previously stated, I loved it. For more context, I haven't set foot in a cinema since the last Star Wars film.
I shouldn't have gone in there.
And not because of COVID or anything as stupid as that. is because Hollywood simply hasn't given me a reason to go. Now, I'm a family man with a young family, and I have about 4 full-time jobs, as does the wife. Our time is extremely limited, but that being said, my wife and I managed to get a sitter over the weekend and go on literally our second date in about 3 or 4 years. And I'll tell you this, we left that cinema smiling, not rolling our eyes, actually genuinely satisfied. Our screening had about 15 people in it, so not packed, but not empty either. It was quite a small screening, which in today's climate feels like a good sign. And our fellow cinema goers, they seem to like the film as well. I heard on more than a few occasions some of those chuckles and chortles I mentioned previously. The cinema itself was actually quite buzzing as well. I mean, I'm not sure what people were going to see, because I can't believe that it was the Thunderbolts or the Salt Path. The only film it could be is Mission Impossible, which personally I'll probably skip, but fair play to you if that's your thing, fill your boots. So in closing, the Phoenician Scheme. It's anti-Christian, Catholic in particular, anti-capitalist, and dripping with typical Anderson oddities. So if you're a believer, it might be worth skipping this one. But in my opinion, it's one of Anderson's best films, and I left the screen satisfied despite the politics. And it actually reminded me that cinema, real cinema, can still surprise me. It can still interest me, and most surprisingly of all, it can still make me want to talk about it when I've left the cinema. Something I just wasn't expecting from modern Hollywood. I just wish Hollywood would stop preaching and start telling great stories again.